Somewhere in the open Pacific, a blue whale has died. For 80 or 90 years, it has crossed entire ocean basins, its heart the size of a small car, its body storing tons of fat and muscle. Now that engine has stopped. At first, the carcass floats, buoyed by gases of decay, drifting at the mercy of currents. But the sea reclaims it. Gas escapes, tissue cools, and the great body tips downward, beginning a journey that will take hours. It sinks through the sunlit surface layer, past the depth where light fails at around 200 meters. Below that lies the twilight zone, then the midnight zone, where no sunlight has ever reached, and temperatures hover near 4 degrees Celsius. The whale falls at roughly 1 to 2 meters per second, a slow-motion descent through crushing pressure that doubles every 10 meters. By the time it approaches the bottom 3, 4, even 5 kilometers down, the pressure exceeds 400 atmospheres, enough to collapse a human lung instantly. Here is a world most people will never imagine, the abyssal plain, one of the largest habitats on Earth, covering more than half the planet's surface. It is a cold, dark desert. Sunlight cannot power photosynthesis this deep, so there are no plants, no algae, no foundation for a food chain. Everything that lives here survives on scraps drifting down from above, a faint snow of dead plankton and fragments called marine snow. In most places, only a few grams of organic carbon reach each square meter of seafloor per year. Life is sparse, slow, and hungry. Animals here may wait months between meals, their metabolisms tuned to famine. Into this starving landscape, a mountain of food is descending. A single large whale can carry between 30 and 160 tons of biomass, more organic matter than this patch of seabed would normally receive in 2,000 years. The impact is imminent, and when that vast body finally touches down on the sediment, it will not simply rot away. It will detonate into life, transforming the abyss for decades to come. The whale strikes the seafloor. There is no sound anyone will hear, only a soft plume of sediment rising into the black water as tens of tons settle onto the plain. In an instant, this ordinary patch of mud, indistinguishable from the endless bottom around it, becomes the richest place for kilometers in every direction. To understand why this matters, remember where we are. The deep sea floor is one of the most nutrient-poor environments on the planet. Above, in sunlit waters, phytoplankton bloom and feed everything. But less than 5% of that surface production ever sinks this deep, and by the time it arrives, it is scattered, dilute, and low in energy. A square meter of abyssal sediment might support only a handful of tiny animals scraping by on microscopic particles. Then, without warning, a body arrives holding as much carbon as thousands of years of marine snow, concentrated in one place. Scientists call this event a whale fall. It is the single largest natural food package the deep sea ever receives. A blue whale carcass can weigh over 100 tons. Even a gray whale delivers 30 to 40. Packed into that body are proteins, fats, and above all lipids, energy-dense oils stored in the blubber and locked deep inside the bones. That lipid content is extraordinary. The skeleton of a large whale can hold 60% of its mass as oil, a fuel reserve that will matter enormously in the years ahead. For now, the carcass simply lies there, a dark island in a featureless desert, radiating chemical signals into the surrounding water. Molecules of decay drift outward on the slow bottom currents, carried tens or even hundreds of meters. In an environment where finding food is the central problem of existence, this is a beacon. Nothing at these depths can afford to ignore it. Across the abyss, scattered animals are already turning, orienting themselves, beginning to move toward a smell that promises more food than they will encounter in the rest of their lives. The first of them are among the ocean's most formidable hunters, and they are converging fast. They come out of the darkness like ghosts. The first to arrive at a whale fall are the mobile scavengers, animals capable of detecting faint chemical trails and swimming long distances to reach them. Chief among them is the Pacific sleeper shark, a sluggish, cold-blooded predator that can exceed 4 meters in length. Sleeper sharks are built for exactly this. They cruise the deep at slow speeds, expending almost no energy, waiting for opportunities most animals will never find. Guided by an extraordinary sense of smell, they may travel kilometers, homing in on the scent plume, until the carcass looms before them. Their mouths are equipped with cutting teeth on the lower jaw and gripping teeth above, ideal for gouging chunks from thick blubber. Alongside them come the hagfish, ancient eel-like creatures almost unchanged for 300 million years. Hagfish are the ultimate deep-sea recyclers. They have no jaws, only rasping tooth plates, and they burrow directly into soft flesh, feeding from the inside out. They can absorb nutrients through their skin, and when threatened, they produce astonishing quantities of slime, liters of it in seconds, choking any competitor. Dozens, even hundreds, may writhe across a single carcass. Then, there are the rattails, or grenadiers, fish with large heads and tapering, whip-like tails. Their nostrils are enormous, packed with sensory tissue, allowing them to smell food across vast distances. Rattails are among the most abundant fish in the deep sea, and a whale fall draws them in numbers. What is remarkable is the speed of assembly. Within hours to days of a carcass landing, this crowd gathers from a habitat where animals are normally scattered across kilometers of empty mud. Baited camera experiments confirm it again and again. Drop a large parcel of food to the abyssal floor, and scavengers appear with startling reliability. This is the mobile scavenger stage, the opening act of the whale fall. It can last months to years on a large carcass. And now that the feast has been discovered, the removal of flesh begins in earnest, at a pace that seems impossible for the cold, slow, deep sea. What happens next defies the sleepy reputation of the abyss. The soft tissue of a whale, the blubber, muscle, and organs vanishes at astonishing speed. Studies of whale falls monitored off the California coast recorded scavengers stripping flesh at rates of 40 to 60 kilograms per day. On some carcasses, the removal is even faster. Sleeper sharks and hagfish tear into the body around the clock, and because they arrive in numbers, their combined appetite is enormous. A carcass that took a lifetime to build can be reduced toward bare bone in a matter of months, sometimes as little as a few, sometimes stretching to 2 years depending on its size and how many scavengers find it. But the large animals are only part of the story. Swarming beneath and around them are the amphipods, small, shrimp-like crustaceans, most no bigger than a fingernail. They arrive in staggering numbers, tens of thousands at once, covering the flesh in a living, seething carpet. Amphipods are the deep sea's cleanup crew, and their collective feeding is relentless. They excavate flesh from crevices the larger scavengers cannot reach, working into the body cavity and along the spine. Where a shark takes chunks, the amphipods take everything else, down to the last shreds clinging to the skeleton. The scene is chaotic. Hagfish knot and writhe, rattails dart in to snatch loosened morsels, and the water shimmers with drifting particles of tissue and clouds of amphipods. Every gram of this soft material represents energy that would otherwise never exist at these depths, and nothing is wasted. The competition is intense, but the abundance is so overwhelming that hundreds of animals can feed at once. Slowly, the shape of the whale changes. The rounded mass of blubber sinks and flattens as flesh disappears. The ribs begin to emerge, then the long arc of the spine, until the great skeleton lies increasingly exposed against the sediment. The mobile scavenger stage is winding down, but the carcass has already changed the seabed around it forever. For as the flesh was consumed, a vast tide of organic material was raining into the mud below, priming the next transformation. Not all of the whale ends up inside a scavenger. As sharks tore and amphipods swarmed, fragments of tissue, oils, and organic debris rained down onto the surrounding sediment. Fluids leaked from the decomposing body and spread outward. The result is a zone of extraordinary enrichment, a halo of nutrient-soaked mud extending several meters beyond the carcass in every direction. In a habitat where organic carbon is normally measured in tiny fractions, this sediment is suddenly loaded with food, concentrations rising dramatically above the surrounding plain. Scientists call this the enrichment opportunist stage, and it can last from months to several years. The barren mud responds with an explosion of life. Opportunistic species, animals adapted to exploit sudden bonanzas, colonize the enriched sediment in immense densities. Polychaete worms are the great winners here. Certain species, including members of the genus Capitella, can reach densities of tens of thousands per square meter around a whale fall, forming dense mats that process the organic rich mud. These are boom and bust specialists, capable of rapid reproduction, arriving as larvae drifting through the water until they detect the chemical richness below and settle. Alongside the worms come crustaceans, small shrimp and their relatives, sifting the sediment for particles. Molluscs appear too, snails grazing bacterial films and bivalves, filtering the enriched water. Even the microbes flourish, forming visible bacterial mats over the sediment surface, white and gray patches that mark where organic material is most concentrated. What was, only months before, a sparse and quiet desert of mud has become a crowded, teeming neighborhood, denser with animals than almost anywhere else on the deep-sea floor. The census of species living in this enrichment zone climbs steadily, adding to the growing tally that a single whale fall supports. This is a crucial handover in the story. The mobile scavengers took the flesh. Now the sediment community takes what fell around it. But at the center of it all, the skeleton still stands, exposed and waiting. It is not inert. Locked within those massive bones is the whale's greatest treasure, a reserve of oil that dwarfs anything else it contained. And a new group of colonists, some of the strangest animals in the ocean, is about to arrive to claim it. The soft tissue is gone. What remains is architecture. A pale cathedral of ribs, vertebrae, and jawbones resting on the sediment, each bone denser than any land animal's, engineered to survive the crushing pressure of a diving whale. But this skeleton is not inert. It is roughly 60% lipid by weight, a reservoir of oil locked inside the mineral matrix. And in the darkness, an animal has arrived that has learned to break in. Meet Osedax, the bone-eating worm, first described by scientists in 2004 from a gray whale skeleton nearly 3,000 meters down in Monterey Canyon. It has no mouth, it has no stomach, it has no gut of any kind. Instead, its body ends in a tangle of green roots that burrow directly into the bone, secreting acid to dissolve the mineral and expose the fat within. The visible worms are all female, some barely a centimeter long, their feathery red plumes waving in the current to absorb oxygen. Inside each female live dozens, sometimes hundreds, of microscopic males, dwarfed to the size of larvae, existing only to fertilize her eggs. A single square meter of bone can host tens of thousands of these worms, staining the skeleton pink like coral. Around them, cluster specialists found almost nowhere else on Earth. Limpets grazing bacterial films, snails with armored shells, polychaete worms threading through crevices. The bone is not merely a surface to sit upon. It is being mined, drilled, tunneled, and consumed from the inside out. What looks like solid structure is riddled with borings, honeycombed by creatures dismantling it molecule by molecule. Over years, the ribs soften, the vertebrae grow porous. Whole sections crumble into fragments that seed the sediment with fresh nourishment. And as the worms dig deeper, they crack open the sealed chambers of the skeleton, releasing the oils that have been trapped inside for a decade or more. That release is a signal. It summons a second wave of life, one that needs no worms, no scavengers, no sunlight at all. Deep inside the fracturing bone, a chemical revolution is about to begin, and it will change how this ecosystem is powered forever. Every ecosystem you have ever known runs, ultimately, on sunlight. Plants capture it. Animals eat the plants. Even the deep sea depends on scraps of sunlit food drifting down from far above. But now, inside this whale skeleton, a different engine ignites, one that needs no sun and never has. As the bone-eating worms breached the oil-rich interior, they exposed the lipids to armies of bacteria. In the oxygen-starved sediment beneath the carcass, sulfate-reducing bacteria consume these fats and exhale hydrogen sulfide, the gas that smells of rotten eggs and is lethal to most animals. Here, that poison becomes the foundation of a whole community. This is chemosynthesis. Instead of using light to build energy, specialized bacteria oxidize the sulfide chemically, harvesting power straight from the molecule. A whale skeleton can leak sulfide for years, and this sulfophilic stage is the longest and strangest of the entire whale fall. The bacteria form thick white and yellow mats that carpet the bones and surrounding mud, visible from meters away like frost on the seabed. And around this chemical fire, extraordinary animals gather. Mussels of the genus Itis, clams, and tube-dwelling worms colonize the site, many of them carrying symbiotic bacteria inside their own tissues, farming sulfide-eating microbes within their gills. Some of these species are found nowhere else except 2 other places on Earth: hydrothermal vents, where hot mineral water erupts from the crust, and cold seeps, where methane bubbles up from below. The same chemosynthetic life that thrives at volcanic vents thousands of kilometers away is here, on a dead whale, thriving on chemistry alone. This discovery reshaped how scientists think about deep-sea evolution. A whale skeleton may act as a bridge, an oasis of sulfide that lets vent and seep organisms hop across the vast dark plains between their scattered homes. One carcass becomes a stepping stone in a hidden network spanning entire ocean basins. And this chemical stage can persist for decades, feeding species that will never see the surface. The full scale of what a single dead whale supports is only now becoming clear, and the final census is staggering. Now step back and count. From the moment a whale carcass strikes the abyssal floor to the day its last bone dissolves, scientists have documented an astonishing roster of life. A single whale fall can attract close to 200 visible animal species, and when the microbes are included, the number climbs far higher. This is one of the richest habitats in the entire deep ocean. Consider the timeline. In the first months, mobile scavengers, sleeper sharks, hagfish, and swarming amphipods strip up to 60 kilograms of flesh in a single day. Over the following years, opportunistic worms and crustaceans bloom in the enriched sediment, tens of thousands of individuals per square meter. Then the bone-eating ossidacs and their specialist neighbors settle in, followed by the chemosynthetic community that can persist for 50 years or more on the largest skeletons. A great whale carries up to 2,000 kilograms of oil in its bones, and that fuel takes decades to burn. Researchers studying whale falls off California have watched single skeletons support life for well over half a century. Each stage overlaps the next, so at any moment the carcass hosts multiple communities layered together: scavengers, enrichment species, bone colonists, and sulfide farmers, all feeding on one death. Some species are found only here. At least a dozen animals, including several ossidax worms, were unknown to science until whale falls were studied in detail. And because these skeletons are scattered across the seabed, each one becomes a temporary island, a waypoint allowing deep-sea life to disperse and evolve across the dark distances between them. A whale fall is not a corpse. It is an economy, a settlement, a civilization, with generations rising and falling on a single body. It arrives, it flourishes, and eventually it fades, leaving behind fertilized sediment and the offspring that will drift out in search of the next fallen giant. But even a civilization this vast must end. The bones grow thin, the sulfide runs dry. And in the final act of the whale fall, we watch the last of the skeleton disappear and ask what one death has truly built. The end comes slowly. After decades, the great skeleton is barely recognizable. The ribs have crumbled to splinters. The vertebrae, once denser than granite, are porous and hollow, gnawed through by generations of bone worms and dissolved by the acids of countless microbes. The white bacterial mats thin and fade as the last reserves of oil are consumed. The sulfide seep falls silent. One by one, the specialist mussels and clams starve or drift away, their larvae already released into the current, searching the darkness for the next fallen giant. What remains sinks into the sediment, a faint pale shadow on the seafloor, and then even that is gone. The abyssal plain closes over the site as if nothing had ever landed there. But everything has changed. For 50 years or more, this single body has fed an unbroken chain of life. It fell as a mountain of flesh into a desert, and from that one arrival came sharks and hagfish and amphipods, worms by the tens of thousands, snails and limpets and clams, bacteria beyond counting, and creatures found nowhere else on Earth. Nearly 200 visible species, an ecosystem that ran first on flesh, then on bone, and finally on pure chemistry, powered not by the sun, but by the slow release of energy locked inside a life that began at the surface, breathing air, thousands of meters above. Think of what that means. A whale spends decades roaming the ocean, storing energy from every meal it ever caught. When it dies and descends, it delivers all of that accumulated life, in a single moment, to the most food-starved place on the planet. Death here is not an ending. It is a gift, a transfer, a foundation. Somewhere in the dark right now, another whale is beginning its long fall, and around it a new civilization is waiting to be born. From one silent descent into the deep comes flesh, bone, chemistry, and generations of life stretching across half a century. This is the truth the abyss has taught us. One death builds an entire world.